Okay, welcome back to season 4 of the Shared Practices podcast. We are talking about case acceptance this season. This is really exciting because we've got a long-standing guest who is not only a guest, but also a partner on a really exciting project that we're about to release here. George, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Excited to be back. And this is 2 episodes in a row that our audience gets to hear us together. That hasn't been a very regular occurrence here on the Shared Practices podcast. So it's nice to be back on air with you.
I feel like we're kind of like, parents that like you're traveling and then I'm traveling, it's like happy to have the family here together. It's more appropriate that we're having Justin Short on the show today. So it's the whole family is back together today.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited, and I'm happy that our audience gets that, the kids get the continuity. You know what I mean?
Exactly. They really have been missing that, feeling a little neglected. So let's talk to them about the course. So we finally agreed on a name. So we are coming out with a course that we've been working on and brainstorming and building content for. So the title of this course that we're releasing is Ultimate Case Acceptance: Mastering the Art of Treatment Conversion. We know that there's a deficit of this within dentistry, that it's a topic that isn't hit upon, isn't taught, isn't podcasted about as much as many other things, but it's super essential. There's some parts of it that are a little bit like uncomfortable for people to face and embrace. And that's what I'm really excited that we're going to talk about with Justin today. So we're going to be releasing this course very shortly. For anyone who's interested in being on the waitlist for this course and for its launch, there'll be a link in the show notes that you can click on that and get on that waitlist, and we'll let you know, and we'll be kind of teasing out some more of the content and also details for that course when it comes out.
Yeah, a little bit more about the course. We partnered with the guys at the Lifestyle Practice, Justin Short being one of them, Derek Williams the other, and then we brought on a host of guests, tons of guys who are really experts in their respective field. And I think, first of all, we identified a need, right? The most important skill that we have as dentists is not being addressed by really anybody. And so that's a big need. And then second is we got experts in, subcategories that all kind of collectively teach what we think is a kick butt course.
No, and I love the fact that we have different perspectives, because like you can get X, Y, and Z course from one guy, and that's their perspective, and they have a lot of expertise and whatever, but having different ways to do this. There's some of this that depends on your practice style, that depends on your personality. There's some of it that applies to everyone, but everyone's gonna have to find their way that they improve their diagnosis, their case acceptance, the way they implement it in their office. And so we want you to have not just one way of doing it, but multiple ways that have been proven and shown that yes, you can improve it doing these steps. Try this out in your practice for 6 months, 6 weeks, whatever. If you don't like this specific way of doing it, okay, well then go back and watch this video and try it this other way. So people have options even within the course.
And, circling back to the interview, I think one of the more, Justin, he's not afraid to say what's on his mind. And I think you guys are really going to love this interview. He doesn't hold anything back. He tells you his unadulterated opinion, and it's really, really great.
I am so excited to have Blue Sky Bio back as a sponsor for the Shared Practices podcast. And since having them as a sponsor last time, I've actually placed a bunch of implants using Blue Sky Bio. Here is why I absolutely love their system. And I think it's extremely useful for anyone learning to place implants. When you merge a cone beam and a 3D scan, and you restoratively plan your implant placement, and then you transfer that to the mouth with a surgical guide, and then you restore that implant. That cycle right there of planning in the software, using the surgical guide to execute your plan, and then restoring and seeing the results of how you place that implant. That cycle right there is going to teach you so much about implants, so much about placement, so much about restoration, and the way that you restore things is going to change the way that you place things. The way that you plan stuff in the software is going to translate to how you actually place things in the mouth. It's a virtuous cycle of planning, executing, learning over and over and over. I think there's nothing better for someone getting into implants than going through this cycle and doing each of these parts. It will make you a better clinician. Check it out. Download the free software at blueskybio.com. Here we go again with Dr. Justin Short.
I have with me here today Dr. Justin Short from the Lifestyle Practice. one of our partners about our case acceptance course, which we're super excited about, and super excited about today's episode because Justin was one of those guys that really killed it when it came to diagnosis and case acceptance. And I think a lot of his success, he would agree, came from his ability to do very well with patients when, talking about treatment. So how's it going today, Justin?
Good, G-Unit. It's always good to be with you. It's nice to be back on Shared Practices and talk to your delicious audience.
Well, why don't you go ahead and let our delicious audience know where you're at in your life and what's going on with Justin?
Justin is just really feeling grateful and blessed for life right now. In my mind, I literally have to pinch myself some days. It's great. And I don't say that to, brag or rub it into anybody's faces. But I just think when your life is so cool that when you just tell exactly what's going on, it may sound like bragging. That's pretty cool. So, but I mean, it's everything that I wanted life to be at this stage. I worked really hard at the beginning of this year. Hunting season started October 1st on our farm, and we have our cabin/lodge done this year. So it's like a mini Bass Pro store up in her, and it's just been great. I get to do my work. I get to get out in the woods and outside a lot, and it's just been awesome, man. I don't know, can't describe it any better. It's just been awesome.
So no working with brokers to find a practice to jump back into it?
It was tempting, man. We in August and September, we did like 17 days and just kind of toured around the Pacific Northwest, and it was beautiful. And a couple times as we were traveling around up there, it's just my wife and my kids and me, and I was like, Becca, I could get a practice up here, we could just relocate and blah blah blah. And then just kind of laughed, like, I'm not really gonna do that. But no, I'm not looking.
I thought you were being serious. I think for anyone out there who's wondering how Justin feels about his decision to retire at 38, never had a second thought and loves it, from everything I hear at least.
Yeah. And, I think it's important to throw out there. It's not like, I've stayed busy. So it's, this year we've flipped 4 houses, pretty big rehabs projects. TOP it keeps growing month over month. I did the book with Dr. Maloli. So definitely keep him busy. But it's all stuff that it's on my terms. It's stuff that I'm passionate about, that none of it really feels like work. So even though I'm busy, I don't feel like I ever work really.
So tell us about the book with David Maloli.
Yeah, it's been a labor of love. It's called Titans of Dentistry, and I don't know if any of the listeners out there are you familiar with Tim Ferriss, who wrote 4-Hour Work Week, and he also wrote Tools of Titans, and Tribe of Mentors are his latest books. We kind of followed in that pattern. We chose like 35 of, big names in dentistry. Some of them are names everyone knows, like Dr. Pete Dawson, Dr. Gordon Christensen, Howard Ferran, Bruce Baird, go down the list, and they're in there. And then, there's some people that are probably people that are a little bit off the radar, that people don't know about, that are just killing it in their practice and their towns. And I love that too, just as much. So we went through, contacted all these guys, and we basically interviewed each one, asking them the same like 20 questions. Tell me about your routine. Tell me about your best investments since dental school. if you could go back the day you graduated, what would you do differently? What would you tell yourself? What's your best advice when it comes to marketing or leadership in the office or whatever? So we have these lists of 20 questions that we asked each and every one. And we're really looking for similarities, differences. My goal is to see, what do these people have in common that set them apart from everyone else. And it took a long time. It's probably 18 months to 2 years in the making, but it's, in my mind, it turned out extraordinary. Even if no one buys the book, which I think they will. I mean, I really think it's going to go dental viral, if there's such a thing. But even if no one did, to me, just hearing from each and every one of these doctors, like getting in depth with them and seeing what makes them tick, why are they successful, what do they do that not everyone else is doing, kind of thing. I mean, to me, it would be worth every penny and every hour that I spent. So, and Dr. Dave Maloney of the Relentless Dentist podcast, you can edit that out, George. I know you don't like to throw competitors' names out there. He is my co-author, and we worked on the project together. So, I mean, just, we're in contact weekly, if not more. And just, he's a wonderful guy. It's been a pleasure to grow that relationship and work with him. So I'm excited. I mean, it should be coming out in the beginning of November. I don't know when this pod will hit, but, I'm just super excited. I think it's going to do a lot for a lot of doctors. So it turned out to be like 330 pages, which to me is like double of what I was expecting, but it's just a lot of great content. So,
well, that's exciting.
That's it.
In terms exciting. I initially loved the idea, because it's almost like each one of us who read the book get to sit down with, whoever that dentist is and ask them, 20 questions and see what they would say. I think we all get to interview those people, even though you guys were the only ones doing it.
Yeah. Yep. And I think, the takeaways, I think everyone will walk away with something different. I mean, something, and I'm sure it's one of those things, if you read it a couple of times, something else is going to jump out to you that, so-and-so's doing this, or maybe it's just the attitude that was our one, I don't want to throw any spoilers out, but for me, that was one of the biggest takeaways of what I saw in the book. Was more a common mindset and attitude versus everyone was doing marketing this way, or everyone was presenting treatment this way. So I don't want to go into too much depth, but it's got some rich content in there, and we're excited to share it.
That is super exciting. In terms of where you can get the book, let's just assume we release this in November. We probably will, either late October or early November. So where can you get the book, assuming it's already out?
I know you'll be able to get it off Amazon, obviously. We'll probably have a little website up, as well. It may just link right to Amazon. But, as of right now, I'd say Amazon is the surest bet. We'll probably run some ads and stuff like that to get the name out. And I know we've got other podcast interviews lined up. So
perfect. Well, let's move to the topic of case acceptance. I think that something that we both feel is very, very important. And I want to get your take on, if somebody asked you, the importance of case acceptance, what are your thoughts on that, and why do you think that way?
Yeah, well, I thought this was all about me promoting the book, George. So I've actually got to run. Just kidding. Just keeping it real. I'm sure most of your listeners are like, "Oh God, Short, knock off the jokes." But
I'm doing so that. I don't know about anybody else, but
right, I'm sure they are. When you got it, you got it. So, I mean, that's my thing. So, case acceptance. You asked me a question about that. Can you repeat that question?
Sure. So, essentially, we both feel case acceptance is very important, but I want maybe someone in an audience who doesn't necessarily buy into that the weight of importance that we place on case acceptance. Talk about how important you think it is, and how it can really be a big differentiator.
Yeah, I think case acceptance is one of, but not the biggest differentiator in practices. As I know you talked about in your section for the Ultimate Case Acceptance course that's going to be released here soon. And it's something that I've preached and thought, for a long, long time now, is that production equals case acceptance times treatment presentation or treatment presented, sorry. And to me, again, as you did a wonderful job outlining in your section, it really comes down to that. And, for production to increase, which means likely that collections are going to increase, which means you're going to make more money. You're going to have more money to spend in your business. You're going to have more money to do things in your life that you want to, inside and outside of the practice. Two things, or one of the two things, have to increase: the amount of treatment you're presenting and the amount of patients that are accepting that treatment. There's zero way around it. And to me, it's one of the hardest things to work on or focus on. I just think a lot of doctors like to pussyfoot around that idea. They like to work on everything else in their practice. Your production sucks, I know, but I'm really torn on what dental software to get. Should I do Open Dental or should I do EagleSoft? I know, but your production sucks. Well, I'm thinking about going digital. Do you think I should do phosphor plates, or do you think I should? I know, but your production sucks. I know, but Susie called in sick last week. Should I fire her? Should I write her up? It goes on and on and on. And I'm not making these up. These are like real world examples I probably have heard over and over, and probably have heard all three in the last month.
I love how you use one of my examples there.
What's one of them?
I'm just messing around. It was, but yeah.
No, I didn't use any of yours. Actually, all three were yours. So, that's really what it comes down to. They will do everything. They will dance around that over and over. And I would say at least 8, if not 9 out of 10 clients that I work with or dentists that I talk to do not treatment plan enough. So I said in the beginning, in response to your question, I think case acceptance is a very big thing, but I don't think it's the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing is learning how to treatment plan. And I don't mean so when I say that, what's everybody's next move? Well, I'm going to look into a spear course or a COIS course. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, you don't have to treatment plan $50,000 cases. The amount of cases that I treatment planned over 20,000 during my whole career, I could probably count on 2 hands, maybe 2 hands and a foot. So I'm talking about everyday, ordinary crap that we all see: fillings, crowns, night guards, class 5 lesions, incisal wear. How are we dealing with all that? How are we presenting it to the patient? How are we talking to them about it? And not only how are we, but making sure that we are, period, talking to them about it. Because a lot of people under treatment plan. It's amazing how many people under treatment plan. But the doctors who I talk to that are doing the best, producing the most, are treatment planning the most. And I'm not talking about you go in there and you make up crap to get your numbers up, or you're telling a patient that needs a sealant that they need a crown. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about actually being able to see what patients presenting with, and then being able to tell them that they need treatment and why they need treatment, and being concise and being effective and being persuasive enough for them to get it done. So
I love how I feel like everyone in this conversation tiptoes around the conversation about diagnosis. And I think what I've learned from working with you is that it's where everything starts. You'll never ever treat a tooth that you've never diagnosed a tooth. You have to diagnose first in order to treat. And
Right.
it's just such a touchy subject sometimes, and I appreciate your courage to kind of come out here and talk about it because it needs to be discussed. So for a dentist who is out there and they don't believe you, so I'm sitting here listening, and I can imagine that there's going to be a subset of our audience who's like, nope, I diagnose everything. I want you to talk to that person and maybe help them see that maybe they're not diagnosing everything.
Right. Well, taking it a step back, I think you're right. This is like in dentistry, diagnosis and, like how much money you make are like politics and religion to our patients. Like those are the two taboo subjects that we like to tiptoe. We don't like to talk about because, as someone in my position, it's hard for me, like I always don't like to go through the disclaimers of, I'm not telling you to make up stuff. I'm not telling you to be unethical, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of people who can't wrap their mindset around this, that's their fallback. Their treatment planning, $1,500, $3,000, maybe $4,000 a day. And when I broach that subject, it's like, hey, you need to start treatment planning more. They're like, well, I treatment plan everything. And, we go through it. And if they don't want to do it, if they can't wrap their mindset, their mind is too small, their default is, well, they may not say it to me, but I know what they're thinking. They're thinking, oh, well, they're just trying to get me to be unethical. They're just trying to, only focus on the numbers. And it's bullcrap. I think I've talked about it. I don't know if it's this podcast or another podcast. I'm sure your listeners are sick of me. But, not me specifically, because I would never do that. But there are dentists out there who like to convince themselves that they're more ethical because they treatment plan less. And that's just bullcrap. Because the more I'm treatment planning ethically, and there's a lot to treatment plan ethically out there, the more I'm doing that, the more patients are accepting that, the more people are getting healthier and the more people are getting helped. And I'm not going to sit there and argue with the ones who, are treatment planning $300 a day and they're like, well, I can't do any more. That'd be unethical. Okay. I'm not going to argue with you. Either let's figure it out and let's learn together and let's go through the process of learning how to improve, or next. That's really what I'm thinking. And going back to another thing is, if your goal is $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 a day, whatever that goal is in your practice, if you are treatment planning or diagnosing $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 a day, you're never going to end up doing that. No one's getting 100% case acceptance. You may see inflated numbers for the ones who call their case acceptance accepted when they present treatment in a room and the patient's like, yeah, I'll do that. So they're like, oh, man, I'm killing in case acceptance. I'm like 99%. And then, like 20% of those patients actually go to the front, schedule, show back up for the appointment, and then pay for treatment. I'd rather be the guy getting 50% case acceptance on $3 million worth of diagnosis than the one getting 100% case acceptance on $500,000 of diagnosis. And so when I have a client that, does it always feel like I just hijacked the conversation?
Yeah, but that's kind of what you're
when
supposed
you and
to do
I are
as the
talking,
guest.
George?
Oh, you're talking about in a coaching call?
Okay. No. I know I do in the coaching calls. No, I think it's more, you during coaching calls, you're like, okay, thanks for getting on the phone. Here's what my plan is. Here's my goal for the next 5 years. Here's how I'm going to do. I'm like, okay, good talk. We'll talk next month, George. So where was I?
You're talking about, so essentially talking about diagnosis, and you're talking about making sure that, you know, you're diagnosing comprehensively and that your production is based on, you're never going to reach your goals unless you're diagnosing enough to allow for you to reach your goals.
Right. So when I have a client who's not producing where we want to be, which is most of the times the case when clients come to me, one of the first things we'll do, you know, assuming everything else looks like it's doing semi-decent, you know, there's a few other first things, you know, that we've got to make sure the doctor's doing or that the office is doing, like, you know, are you speaking English? Can people understand you? Stuff like that. But assuming we do that and we see the numbers consistently low, I always want to see them track their diagnosis, because that's going to tell us a lot. So if I see someone who says, hey, my goal is $5,000 a day, but I'm consistently doing $3,000. Okay, let's track your diagnosis for the next two to 4 weeks, and let's see where you're at. 2 to 4 weeks is up. They show me, okay, here's my diagnosis. Monday, it's 3,000. Tuesday, 4,000. Wednesday, 1,500. You know, on and on and on through the week, through the month, and you know. Then we know, we can look at those numbers and be like, hey, if your treatment plan diagnosing this, there's no way you're going to hit this. It's just not going to happen. There's nothing I can do in your practice, nothing you can do in your practice. If you're diagnosing this, crap ain't going to happen, man, or woman. And so if we track that and we say, okay, my goal is 5,000, I'm consistently treatment planning 12 to 15,000 every day, then you know, you're still struggling to hit 5, we know that's not the issue. We can take that off the table, and then we start to focus otherwhere. Are you building rapport? How are you, let me email you this picture of a tooth right now. Explain to me just like you would to a patient, how would you explain the treatment they need? Let me hear it. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's atrocious. So if it's good, we take that off the table. We know that's not it. So then we work our way down the ladder. You know, how's your hygienist? How's your front desk? What's the system when they go up and they try to get scheduled for treatment? So to me, diagnosis, case acceptance is, you know, I would say one of, if not the top predictors of success in practice, period.
At this point, I could not agree more with you, based on, you know, the experiences that I've had so far. And I think the topic of, you know, diagnosis as one, case acceptance as a following two, makes a lot of sense. And I hope it does to our audience. And so it's ironic that probably the most important skill we have as dentists in our abilities to, you know, be successful, we don't discuss at all. And I'm hoping that we change that, because... Right. You know, it is the most important thing. And so for somebody out there who, you know, what kind of things can they do to ethically increase the amount that they diagnose?
So one of the challenges that we're asking you to take on in this season is to think about your practice from the perspective of a patient. So to go through the patient experience of how they're checked in, treated, checked out. And part of that is impacted by the physical layout of your office. Whether you've realized that the layout of the office that you're in is less than perfect, or you're doing a startup and want to have the best layout and don't know where to start, Design Ergonomics is here to help. We've partnered with Design Ergonomics because they've been doing this for 20 years, and they know exactly how to create office floor plans that flow, make sense, and feel natural to your patients. And unlike maybe some of the free floor plans that you'll get from suppliers, these are going to maximize your square footage and are not just designed to get you to spend more with that supply company. The first thing that they do is called a blocking diagram, which is basically just a conceptual outline of your practice without all the little nitty-gritty details. That way, you don't end up with a high-end consult room sandwiched in between a compressor, an autoclave, and the bathroom. You laugh, but sometimes this happens. It's super easy. Their team can remotely evaluate your layout and walk you through your design to make sure you're maximizing productivity and allowing for future growth. To help you get started today, Design Ergonomics is providing a special offer to Shared Practices listeners. If you go to www.desergo.com and enter the promo code DESIGN today, 2 separate words, you get $500 off. That's right, $500 off their already specially priced blocking diagram and floor plan bundle. This discount is limited time only, and it's only for Shared Practices listeners. Go to www.desergo.com. Promo code DESIGN today for $500 off your blocking diagram and floor plan bundle.
What kind of things can they do to ethically increase the amount that they diagnose?
Yeah. And I think, just based off what you just said, I think that's why this ultimate case acceptance course, and I'm not trying to overhype it or anything, but I think that's why it had to be created, because no one wants to talk about it, but it is one of the most important things that we deal with. And it's going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, predictors of success in our practice. And that's why it had to be done. I don't know why people hadn't done it before. But I mean, the people that are presenting this course, are pretty amazing. And that's why I think this is going to be awesome. But going back to your questions, what can people do? And I'm actually looking at the notes that I have from the course that's coming out, so I could definitely cheat here and just go down the list. But I'll use my thoughts and stuff like, just even going back to what you and I have done. And what I suggest to other clients is make a cheat sheet. I know it sounds simple. I know it sounds stupid, but if you use it, it will work. So, making a list of everything that you need to be looking for, that needs to be running through your head as you do your exams. Most people, we know, hey, if a tooth is broken in half, we need a crown. If they've got a big old soft black spot on their tooth, they need a filling. But so often, a lot of times that's where it stops. And in our mind, with every single tooth that you're looking at in your exam, in a split second, you need to be thinking, does this need a crown? Does it have a fracture? Does it have decay? Does it have gum line lesions? Do we have incisal wear? Do we have exposed dentin? Malocclusion? All these things need to be rattling through your head on each and every tooth. And if you practice at it, it sounds impossible at first, but it happens. And I think a lot of us think that we do that, but then when we write down our list, it usually comes down to like 4 or 5 things that we're really looking for. So I think that is one. I think what I see a lot of people, honestly, again, this is going back to the conversation we had earlier. A lot of people are too conservative, bottom line. I don't know. I don't remember all the stories that we've talked about, but I've purchased 2 practices in my life. And the first practice, there's a lot of removable. I would say probably 30% of our older patients in that practice had some type of removable appliance, either full or partial. And that dentist did not believe, I wouldn't say that he didn't not, that he did not believe in crowns. He believed in them, but when I bought the practice, he gave me the heads up. Oh, patients here don't like crowns. Okay, buddy. I can tell by the 50 partials that I'm staring at. The other, it was the exact opposite. He was very aggressive, maybe even too aggressive. But I could count on one hand out of 2,000 patients who had a partial or denture, because he was protecting those teeth. Did he maybe push the envelopes a little bit, in my eyes, too much? Maybe sometimes. But you compare these 2 patient populations, and it was a big eye-opener for me. You got to find the sweet spot in there. But at the end of the day, when I'm 60, 70 years old, if my choices are a few more crowns or a partial, huge piece of plastic that I have to take in and out and can't use efficiently and stuff like that, I know which one I'm choosing. So, not being so darn conservative, like really looking at what justifies the crown, just like you and I have. Hopefully I can share this, but George has been sending me some cases, so we can kind of calibrate together. He will send me intraoral photos and he'll say, this is what I diagnosed. What do you think? And some of them we've been dead on, a lot of them, but there have been some that I've had to say, in my opinion, this didn't need a 2-surface filling. This needed a crown, because look at this crack you have coming down here. Look how big this, filling is interproximal here. Look at, we don't have any teeth posterior to that. So therefore, this big filling is going to be under much more stress because it's taking on more load. Little things like that. There's also been some, which I see not just with George. I'm just picking on George because he's on here with me today. But surfaces. I mean, I would say, my guess, and I have no hard statistics on this because that would be gay, because who wants to sit down and get statistics on this? But I'd say most totally underdiagnose surfaces when it comes to fillings. We're going 1 millimeter or 2 down the lingual groove on 3 and 14, or we're going 1 millimeter or 2 down the buccal groove on 19 or 30. And, we're still charging out as an occlusal when it should be an OL or an OB, or we're doing huge class 2s that are extending to the buccal or the lingual a little bit, but we're not adding that surface. And, I think this is easier to do in person when I can draw it out. Bruce Baird does it very good. At PDA, he'll get up there and draw it out. But when you cross those line angles, it doesn't have to be much. It can be a fraction of a millimeter, but if you cross them, you need to add that surface. So I think there's a lot. I think Delta Dental and all the other insurances are getting gifts every day from dentists who are charging out less services than they're actually doing. And I have no idea why they do it. I don't know if it's lack of knowledge, or they're trying to be nice to the patients or to insurance companies, or what. But I mean, I rarely did 1-surface fillings. I mean, I had to do them like everyone else, but most of the time when I'm cleaning out a big occlusal filling, I have to extend a little bit, buccal or lingual, or, if I'm doing the class 2, I'm usually extending a little bit to the buccal or lingual to make sure I got everything cleaned out. And, I'm not extending just to bulk up my production. I'm just doing it to do what needs to be done. But I'm making sure every time I do that once I've crossed that surface is being charged out. So that may add, $30, $40, $50, depending on how many surfaces you end up adding. So all that to say, charge for all your surfaces. Charge for everything you do. And did I answer that good enough?
Yeah, no, I think you did a good job. And I want to add, I'm a new grad, obviously, and a lot of the diagnosis that I'm doing is new to me. And so I think, I've asked Justin to be a coach for me and, helping me, diagnostically develop and figure out what I need to be doing. And in the same cases that he's told me that, maybe I'm a little too conservative, he's also told me a couple times it's a little aggressive. So I think we've been both ways. And, that's just me learning. And, but I did want to say that because I think the misconception that somebody listening will just think, oh, well, he's just much more aggressive than I am. And then they'll just kind of leave it at that, and they'll go on with their life and not improve their diagnosis at all. And, I want to make the point that, sure, maybe you may be too conservative or too aggressive. I don't know. But no matter what your tendencies are, you don't have to change your beliefs to diagnose more. It's just thinking differently and seeing and talking about everything that you see, and then talking about the services.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because whether people just want to, throw stones and be like, this guy's full of crap, or they don't want to put in the work, so they instead throw stones and be like, oh, he's just much more aggressive. Or if I talk to Justin or work with Justin, or someone besides Justin that does the same thing, they're just going to tell me to make every filling a crown, and that's not the case. I mean, that's not my goal at all. And I would never do that. First, I want to be ethical first, but I also want to kick butt in practice, and I want to produce as much as I freaking can while I'm in the office. I know that's blasphemous, if that's a word to say, but I mean, it's the truth. If I'm going to be in that dang office, I want to be making every penny that I can ethically. I'm not ever going to compromise my integrity or anything else to make another buck, but I'm going to do everything I can within those confines to make as much money so that I can build my life and freedom plan, whatever that is, outside of that office. So,
well, I'm happy.
Don't make excuses. I mean, it's easy to kid ourselves, Sorry.
No, keep going.
Go ahead.
Did you want to finish?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's easy to kid ourselves and lie to ourselves and tell ourselves, oh, so-and-so is just going to tell me to push the boundaries too far. I'm just going to tell me to do. And, bottom line is that's not the case. If you want to be a wimp and keep doing what you're doing, not try to improve, tell yourself that. Like, if that helps you sleep, go for it. I don't care at all. But I can tell you from being on both sides, that's not the case. I know I'm not going to do it, and I think most people in my position are not that way either.
So
now I'm done.
Okay. Well, I also wanted to talk about, I think one of your big things that we can harp on, and what I hope people get from our course, and then also when they're listening this season, is the idea that case acceptance is not about the conversation you have with the patient. It is partially about that, but there's a much bigger picture that people often forget, and they try to find some magic phrase or some way of explaining something that just makes patients schedule and pay and show up. And I want your take on that, because I think we agree on how it's so much more than that. And so I was wondering if you could kind of, over the next few minutes, answer that question. So in your office, what does case acceptance look like versus in other offices that you see?
Sure. Case acceptance begins way before you go into the room. And I think that's what most of us think. A course on case acceptance is going to be all about me sitting there having a talk with the patient and the specific words that I use. And some of it is that. I mean, we've got the guy who wrote the book on dental metaphors and stuff like that. So yes, part of it is improving your conversations, becoming more concise. That is one of the most common things I hear from dentists that I talk to. They all say, I talk too much. I get in there and I ramble. And a lot of them are kind of like, I'll get in there and I'll just talk for days. I'm like, well, you're not yet then. So you got to fix that, because it doesn't make you more persuasive. It doesn't help you build more rapport because you sit there and talk forever. I think it's a much bigger skill to go in there, build rapport, present treatment, get treatment acceptance in a shorter amount of time. Every word that you speak when you go into that room should earn its way into the conversation, period. There should be no fluff. There should be no wasted words. You should be intentional and you should be strategic when you go in there. Now, that being said, excuse me, that for me, case acceptance, often starts, I wouldn't even say often, case acceptance, good or bad, starts way before a patient gets to your office. And as I talk about in the course, when they get your marketing material, what does it say about you? What are your colors? What are your fonts? How does it look? What is it telling that patient about you? Does it tell them you're a good old country boy or girl, which is fine? That may be what your demographic is. Is it telling them that you're more laid back, laissez-faire? Is it telling them, like there's big attention to detail, perfectionist, straight-laced, whatever? So, and then what happens is people get your advertising, whether it be mailers or AdWords or whatever, billboards, then they go and look you up. So then they want to see what's everyone else saying about Dr. Hariri. And, they go down there and they see, what are people saying? Does everyone love him? Does everyone hate him? Is he a nice guy? Does he hurt you? Does he do good work? Blah, blah, blah. So that makes them form an opinion. It may not 100% dictate what they choose to do, but it 100% plays a part. And, just like when you go to the movies and you read the reviews before you go to the movies, and it could be a movie you've been waiting to see for a year. And, like Goosebumps 2 that I saw yesterday with my kids. I mean, we were just chomping at the bit to get up in there. But regardless of what I wanted, honestly, I don't want to see it, but I love my kids. So, but they were really excited to see it. And let's say we read reviews and everyone's like, this is the best movie ever. It's going to win every Academy Award ever. You're like, oh man, this is going to be great. So when you go to the movies, you're already expecting it to be great. Maybe it sucks, but because you have that expectation set, it's going to be harder to change that expectation. If there's a movie you want to see, the reviews are horrible, your expectations are set. In your mind, you're not expecting too great of things from this movie. And a couple bad scenes, a slow part here or there, and you're like, man, those reviews were right. This movie sucks. On the flip side, if all the reviews are great, you're going in expecting, man, this movie's going to be great. And if you don't think it's great, you start to think, man, something's wrong with me. I wanted to see this movie. Everyone else said it was great. I must be wrong. This movie's great. So same thing happens in our practice. Patients see what everyone else says. If we've got 100 5-star Google reviews saying this dentist in this office is the best thing since, I don't know, what's something that's really good, George?
It's the best thing since Justin Short.
Wow. That's setting the bar pretty high, but we'll roll with it. So, they're thinking Hariri's practice must be as good. The next best thing is Justin Short. And, so they come in and their expectations are set. And they're already thinking, this office must be pretty good. I'm expecting it to be good. Therefore, in order for you to shine in their eyes, the bar is set a little bit lower. Now, on the flip side, you're the only office they could get into, but they saw your reviews and, let's say there's some 5-star, a lot of 3 stars, a 1-star here or there. In their mind, it's not going to take much for you to screw up. They have to sit in the waiting room for 5 minutes. Hygienist drops an instrument. They're like, oh my gosh, those reviews are right. This place sucks. So what we want to do is warm the patient up. That's my goal. All the way through the process till I get in there and I present treatment, I want to keep warming the patients up so they are burning hot or as hot as I can get them before I present the treatment. So they get your marketing material, they look at your reviews, we're warming them up, they're expecting our office to be great, they've read good things about me, they think I'm awesome, they call the office. Hi, thank you for calling Dr. Hariri's office. This is Dr. Hariri's mom. Can I, how can I help you? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so they go through the scheduling appointment. They're very welcoming, oh my gosh, they get the patient's name, Justin, you called the right office. You are going to love Dr. Hariri. He does such a good job, takes such good care of our patients. You're absolutely going to love him. So again, we're warming that patient up. We're telling that patient, you are going to love this office. You're going to love the doctor who you meet. So, and again, in the patient's mind, they're like, crap, reviews were good. This person on the phone says they're so good. I'm like, I'm expecting them to be pretty darn good. So, they come in your office, things look, they smell good. I'm going to kind of fast forward through here because you're probably falling asleep about an hour ago. We walk in the office. They don't get sign in there, take a seat. They get, oh my gosh, Justin, it's so nice to meet you. I'm glad you can make it in today. We're really happy to have you. Have a seat. So-and-so will be with you right away. Can I get you a coffee or anything while you wait? So there's another point. Then hygienist comes, they do a good job. I won't go into all the details here on this pod, but when they get ready to go get you, since you're my example in this, they're so-and-so, or Justin, because I'm the patient, right? Justin, have you met Dr. Hariri yet? Knowing that we haven't met. So I'm like, no, I haven't. And they're like, oh gosh, I'm going to get ready to go get him. You're going to love him. He's a great guy. Super down to earth. He's going to take great care of you. So again, boom, they're getting warmed up. They've heard like 3 or 4 times now how great you are. And you come in, you're freaking walking on water. All those things to warm that patient up and get them to fall in love with you. They're already accepting your treatment, eating out of your hand by the time you get in there. So that's kind of my process. And, obviously we go into much more detail in the course, but everything is intentional. How you do anything is how you do everything. And I want to do everything as good as I freaking can. And I want them being warmed up from the time they grab our marketing material all the way up until the time I finally meet them in the hygiene room, getting ready to tell them they need $10,000 worth of work, when really they only need 3 sealants. Just kidding. Just seeing if you were paying attention.
No, I mean,
that's how I get the numbers up, folks. Right there. No. So does that all make sense?
Yeah, and I think for someone in our audience, there's an analogy that you used with me on one of our coaching calls that I really liked, and it was so in my practice, we're obviously in our 3rd month of ownership. So have we perfected the process from mailer to conversation and scheduling? No. But we're really focusing on the parts that are most immediate in that process, the hygienist's role and our role, and then what they're doing up front. So, even in that, I think we use this analogy on one of my calls that I really liked about pushing a boulder up a hill. And as we started doing it and seeing how much easier things were, you use that analogy with me where you're like, okay, you trying to get a patient to say yes to treatment is like taking this boulder, pushing it up a hill, and then knocking it off a cliff. And as you have more and more things, that are warming up the patient or informing them about what they need treatment-wise, and, my episode with Richard where I talk about that has already come out, the boulder gets closer and closer to the edge of the cliff, and so all day you're not pushing it nearly as far, and you're getting more and more of them to fall off the cliff. So go for it. I know you're chomping at the bit as I'm using your analogy.
No, I was writing it down. I'm like, wow, that's good stuff. No, I think just going back to, I know I glassed over it, but I think the hygiene's role in training them on how they're part of their process, I think is super duper important, as far as diagnosis, intraoral photos. And, I know the course goes into that detail, not just in my section, but in the hygienists and stuff that we have there. But yeah, and just going back to that analogy, and as I told you, like walking into that room and starting at the bottom of the hill and trying to push this boulder up all the way up to the top of the cliff and letting it fall over, which is in our analogy, like that wears me out. That tires me down, whether it be I can't stay engaged if I'm having to do that every time I go in for an exam twice an hour. But if everyone along the way, and my system is so tight that Boulder is just waiting for me to come in and just go boop, and the thing goes over, and which is in reality me telling the patients what they need, and them being like, I know your hygienist already told me, she showed me the pictures, it makes perfect sense, I agree, I do need that crown. That's having to walk in and go boop, and I can do that over and over and over, and I can stay engaged not only in my exams but in everything else going on in my office if I just have to walk into that hygiene room and go boop. And that's one of the reasons why I was able to be so productive and so efficient in so little time, because I can walk into those, I've got the energy, I've got the bandwidth to make sure that everything else going on in my practice that I'm responsible for, which is everything, I guess, is doing good. But if I'm getting pooped out just by doing all my exams, like, oh, you need a crown. Well, what the hell's a crown? Why do I need a crown? What tooth needs a crown? I'm like, well, how do I know you're the right guy to do the crown? Have you ever done a crown before? If I'm starting at that, my hygienist has never taken photos, hasn't told them, hasn't shown them, hasn't explained that. They don't know me from Adam because I have no reviews up. No one's told them how awesome I am, et cetera, et cetera. Like, that's what sucks in dentistry. That's what will burn you out. And that is always what I wanted to avoid.
I get it too. Line. I think, I don't know how many people get that point, but it's so important because I remember when we first started at this office, before we had the chance to really implement these things, I'd walk into an exam and I'd see an issue that was vague, and one of those is difficult to explain. I'm like, crap, I got a lot going on right now. I don't have time to sit here and talk to this patient about it, but and that's what's going through your mind. I mean, whether we're human, it's not like we're just these perfect robots all day. That's it to have time to do these things. So naturally, something's going to fall through the cracks. It's either your diagnosis or your case acceptance. And so, I think that somebody listening to this episode hopefully got that conclusion out of it. And do you have anything else for everyone listening?
Yeah, sorry you cut out for a second. Did you ask me if I had any final thoughts?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I do, obviously. I mean, you pretty much knew the answer, right? Everyone's listening like, oh, God, no, George, don't ask him.
Just cut it off. Just end it.
Right. And I don't blame them. But so here's a really important thing, is that I think most people are like, oh, I'm going to get better case acceptance over time. I'm going to get better treatment presentation over time. It'll happen just through osmosis. Or again, like I said before, people tell me like, I know when I do exams, I talk way too long. Like, I just want to slap them. Like, that's okay if you don't give a dang about, if you don't have big goals, if you don't want to grow your practice, if you're not worried about doing anything extraordinary or above average, like, dude, I'm not going to push you to do it. If that's not in your gut, burning in your gut like it was mine every day, do what you want. I could care less. If you're happy, I'm happy, kind of thing. But if you're serious about wanting to take your practice to the next level, and you're serious about having a practice that affords you things in life that most dental practices don't for most doctors, then you've got to work. I remember, and I'm not patting myself on the back, I'm an easy target to use. But I remember like taking Paul Homiley's old school book, leading patients to yes. And I remember listening to Dick Barnes tapes, like old stuff, like stuff that was even old when I was younger. I know people were like, oh, this probably was brand new stuff, like electricity, when Justin graduated school in 2005. But these were, even had been a while by then. And I remember like sitting down and reading these and studying these things and like taking notes in the book, taking notes in worksheets, or notepads next to the books. Like, when I'm already a dentist, when I already have my practice, go home at night and like sit down and study, and I would really study this crap. And that's how I improved. It wasn't that I had some magic innate abilities. I guarantee you, I don't have any abilities that anybody listening does not have, except maybe that I'm willing to put in the work. That would be the only thing. But if you want to have extraordinary things, you've got to do extraordinary things to get there. Don't expect it's just going to happen. Will you improve over time by osmosis? Yes. But by the time you really start to get it figured out, if you ever get to figure it out, time's gone, man. It's passed you up. So for those of you who really want an extraordinary life or practice or freedom outside of your practice, put in the work. Don't be afraid of it. And I'm not talking about just like one night, like put a medal on me, I skipped Netflix tonight. Put a medal on me, I didn't go golf and I went to a CEU one day. Like, great. Everyone does that kind of crap. Even someone who doesn't give a crap will skip Netflix one night. But I'm talking about really putting in the time. And I put in a lot of time when I was younger. Again, not patting myself on the back. That's just me. I had a goal. I had a vision for my life. And I will tell you, it's paid off. And it was, hard work pays off, bottom line. And don't expect things if you're not willing to put in the work for it. That's it.
Mic drop. I love it.
Yep.
All right, we'll wrap on that note. And again, I think that a lot of great takeaways from this episode. So thanks again for coming on, Justin. Once again, killed
Thanks for having me. Yep, always fun. Always fun to talk to you on a podcast.
All right, we'll see you next time, Justin.
George, that was some classic Justin right there. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, no, it was funny when he was talking about it's a few times now, as we start working together, we know about each other a lot more, and then we get on air, and then like he'll pull something from our conversation or like bring it into his discussion, and he totally did that in the episode where he was talking about the phosphor plates and going digital. That was totally me.
So your office has phosphor plates?
Yeah. So we we bought a practice and we haven't had a chance to do everything we want yet. And one of the things that we're kind of kicking around is they have phosphor plates, and they'll take them. It's like, film, and then they'll scan it in to the patient's chart. So it's a digital x-ray, but it's a scanned film. And I guess the question that I had, and the reason why we had that discussion that he made fun of me about on air, is I feel like I can't see that much, and so I don't know if I'm missing stuff because of the quality of my x-rays. So
okay, so ironically, his example, I feel like we need to throw this back in his face, because your reason for bringing up phosphor plates versus digital was because you want to diagnose accurately, and he's saying back like, oh no, should I do digital versus phosphor plates? You need to focus on case acceptance. And in fact, you're like, no, this is part of me focusing on case acceptance. I've already got that dialed in. I'm trying to also switch over to digital from phosphor plates. That's hilarious.
Yeah, but Justin, he just kind of thinks of, it was top of mind, and we had that conversation about a week ago. So it was funny that
he threw that in there.
He just threw it right in there. Yeah. So I thought that was hilarious. And, that's why I called him out. I'm like, you just called me out mid-interview.
I thought that was a great episode, because it's something that a lot of us don't want to talk about, because either we're afraid of stepping on toes, or we're afraid of being perceived as like too aggressive or too conservative, or we want to stand on a pedestal of like, well, I do ethical dentistry. Everyone who's trying to make money is obviously overdiagnosing. Everyone tends to think that like people are on the opposite pole, when in reality, I think the majority of us and the majority of our listeners are pretty dang in the middle of that, where we're doing the best that we can to provide ethical dentistry, and we want to have a profitable practice, and diagnosing what should be diagnosed and getting a higher case acceptance means more patients get good treatment. I think that's what this all comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody out there is like doing stuff like, this doesn't need it, but let me just tell the patient it does so that I can make some money. Like, I just can't imagine anybody being a dentist and I've been doing that. I'm so far from that, and I think most of us are, that the idea, and I don't know why we put that on each other too. Well, just because you did something I don't do doesn't mean it's unethical. It just means you think that's what's best for that patient, and maybe somebody disagrees.
No, that's a great point. Like, I don't want to do any more dentistry on any given patient than I have to. Like, most of the time I'm just like, yeah, I want to be done with you. Like, you want to take care of patients, but it's not like we're making crap up. And you're totally right. Like, we can have different different philosophies of care, but that doesn't mean someone's doing something unethical.
And I almost think it's maybe more unethical, or I think the unethical side of dentistry is more in the neglect.
Yeah.
And the being afraid to tell a patient all of their issues, or looking at something and thinking, man, that's a real pain to do, and it's just like, I think that's a bigger problem than the perceived thing that people are doing things that patients don't need.
Yeah, no, the deciding for the patient that they probably can't afford this, they probably don't want this treatment, I'm just not going to bring this up, when it's our duty to let them know, and then they can decide, and we can make it easy for them. So I thought this was a great kick in the pants, that rather than judge a course or a consultant or someone who's doing more diagnosis or case acceptance than you are, someone who's a little bit further down this road, rather than judge them, let's take a look at ourselves and say, okay, can I be doing something better? Whether it's on the diagnosis side, whether it's on the case acceptance side, whether it's on the building your practice to be a practice that is going to encourage case acceptance, there's probably something you could be doing better, to be honest.
Yeah. And, Justin brings up a great point in the episode. So most important thing is diagnosis in terms of, so I talk about in my section, I go over case acceptance metrics, and diagnosis and treatment planning is a big part of it. And I almost look at it as a guide to practice growth, where if, like, for example, in our office, we were converting, first step, we improved our case acceptance, and then we realized, okay, well, we're not diagnosing enough. We didn't necessarily start diagnosing more. We brought on another hygienist because we felt like we needed to diagnose more. So we needed to see more patients. And so I think having a good understanding of your diagnosis, your goals, it can also help make other decisions that you might not be sure if you're ready to make them or not. So I don't necessarily think that the only way to increase diagnosis is, you can also increase patient flow. And I think understanding your diagnosis and your goals on production goals, you can figure out if you have proper patient flow to meet your goals.
No, absolutely. And kind of understanding and massaging all those metrics to get to your goals is the important part of all this. So if someone is interested in this course, if someone wants to, if they feel like, what, I know I could be doing better at diagnosis, case acceptance, making my office centered around this and building my team's performance in this area. If someone's at all interested in that, get on our wait list. We'll have a link in the show notes for this episode. And that will allow you to know when this course comes out here pretty soon. We're the second half of October, as well as if anyone is interested in Justin's book, shoot him a message, or I'm sure he'll have a website up soon. You said this episode is probably gonna air in November, but we pushed it up a little bit. So sorry, Justin.
Yeah, no, definitely not coming out in November. And everybody shoot Justin a message about his book. I'm sure he would love that.
Please, everyone friend him on Facebook and then shoot a message saying, hey, when's the book coming out? Just wondering, I heard it on the Shared Practices podcast that it's out. Is it out yet?
Let's do that. Let's bother Justin for all the times he bothers us.
Please. Perfect. Well, great. Well, this has been another phenomenal interview. Anything to wrap this up, George? Any other last?
No, I think it's good. I think we'll leave it at that.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk with you next week on the Shared Practices podcast.